During this 25 years of amazing journey, our alma mater has achieved many milestones. We have started our journey being a sapling planted with love and affection, which has now grown into a colossal tree, bearing the fruit of quality education and adorned with beautiful flowers of smart and dynamic minds. To commemorate the Silver Jubilee year, our institution has organized various competitions, and today's seminar presentation is one of them. We, the Deviants, believe in the great concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which has proved its worth by the enthusiastic presence of 14 different schools of Sahoda School Complex, Bhubaneswar chapter. I, on behalf of PNV Parivar Kalinga Nagar, once again extend my greeting and welcome you all to this mega event of Silver Jubilee celebration of this temple of learning. Our relationship with light is as old as our beginning. We are always down towards light. It stands for prosperity and abundance. It brings hope, dissipates the darkness of ignorance, and so symbolizes the cosmic force or divine light. I request all the dignitaries, Honorable Principal Sir, and all the supervisors to come over the stage and light the divine lamp. Sirs and madams, please. It is indeed a beautiful morning, all soaked in the delighted frame of mind. Today we have two eminent personalities with us, Professor Brahmananda Sattpathy and Dr. Rajiv Kumar Panda, who have given their consent to be the judges for this mega event. Thank you, sirs, for being here. Professor Kalinga Nagar is a retired professor of political science. He is one of the youngest professors of India. He is a versatile academician and a prolific writer and authored more than 20 books. A celebrated contributor to international and national journals, he has also authored the biography of veteran freedom fighter and former Governor Surendranath Dwivedi. He has expertise in international politics, political theory, Indian politics, federalism, political sociology, democratic revolutions, etc. He served as the registered and acting VC at Utkal University, Bangalore. He was also the assistant officer of Utkal University. A stalwart in political science, chairman and member of governing bodies, university, Senate, syndicate member, chairman of Board of Studies, and many more. And eminent orator, academician, author, and above all, an acclaimed teacher. Please put your hands together for Brahmananda. Dr. Rajiv Kumar Panda is a professor in English and a writer of par excellence. 14 of his books are already published and are taught to MBA, MCA, BTech, B Pharma, BR, and diploma students of different universities. Being a student, learning professor, a creative writer, a voracious reader, he enjoys guiding the students in improving their spoken and written communication skills in English. He is also an entrepreneur. Please give a huge round of applause for Professor Rajiv Kumar Panda. request our esteemed principal sir, Vipin Kumar Sahu, to extend the welcome address to the August gathering. Sir, please.
Good morning, Madam President of the year, esteemed dignitary judges of the morning, Professor Ramanand Saraswati, and Dr. Rajiv Panda, supervisors of the school, invited expert teachers from various schools, the participants, report to the committee members, and colleagues. Happy welcome to all of you to the public school Kalinga Nagar. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you on the grand occasion of the Silver Jubilee year. Today's gathering is special for all of us. Because to get a chance for prayer, the writings of the schools gather at one place. It's a great opportunity for BHUBANESWAR to see that schools, not only from the BHB, from all the other group of schools, are being taking part in this Jubilee year. At the outset, I welcome to both the judges, those are spared the valuable time, particularly Professor Ramanand Saraswati and Dr. Rajiv Panda, to make this morning time work. Sir, on behalf of the BHUBANESWAR, I welcome both of you. I also welcome to the expert teachers and the participants. Those are taking interest to be part of this seminar. Inspired the sunny days that we are facing every day. So happy welcome to all of you, and special thanks to principals. Those are taking interest to give you a chance to send the teams to this school. I also welcome to the supervisors and to the members to this event. Regarding the school was initiated in 6 July 1997. Presently, we are in the Silver Jubilee year, 25th year is going here, and 26 July 2022, the valedictory year will be celebrating. So throughout the year, we are conducting various activities and programs, educational programs, so that to make our everyone and to rejoice the Silver Jubilee year, not only by the baby events, but also with the part of other sister concerned schools. School was initiated in 6 July 1997. Founder principal being Dr. K.C. Sathu, the regional officer of KB Institute at Oman. With the initiative of founder chairman, late engineer P.C. Patnaik, and founder principal Dr. K.C. Sathu, school has come up to this level. At present, school is running in the spacious building, beautiful campus, and having a strength of 1700 with more than 75 staff members. The plan of the management is always to see that not to increase the strength for these. We are constrained to open beyond 3 sections. Only 3 sections will be running in this school. That is the game management taking a call that will look into the quality rather than the quantity. With this, again I will come one and a half, and both the seminar The topic which is a vibrant topic, a evolving topic, this will be very educative from all of us with the guidance of ST Justice Award. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Now it's time to begin this mega event of seminar presentation on the topic Impact of Nuclear War on India's Foreign Relations. Before that, let me apprise you with the rules and regulations of today's competition. Rule number 1. During the presentation, school's name should not be mentioned anywhere. Each team will be called to present their seminar as per the code given to the school at the time of registration. 7 minutes will be given to each team for the presentation. The decision of the judges will be final and binding in case of all disputes. Top 3 position holders shall be awarded. Proper discipline should be maintained throughout the program by each team. I hope you have listened the rules carefully. And now, may I call upon the smallest team of today's competition, and that is none other than the team Daffodils. Please put your hands together for team Daffodils.
If everyone followed their own convictions, there would be no war. The war to end all wars, they said, by those who the night we believed, who were already dead, never knowing they were deceived. A very warm morning, everyone, President Overtown, honorable members of the jury, esteemed delegates, and the office gathering. It gives us immense pride and honor to represent our team in this symposium on the topic, Effects of the Ukraine War on India's Foreign Relations. Well, if we see a complete scenario, since times immemorial, men of all races, creeds, and tribes have waged war against one another for a zillion reasons. Most of justifications for their vested deeds and needs. Ironically, one of these includes even the striving for peace. Isn't it a question coming in the minds of all of us? How can one wage war in order to achieve peace when peace comes only by the presence of justice and not by the presence of war? Catherine the Great, the Russian Empress, once said, I have no other way. Catherine the Great, the Russian Empress, once famously said, I have no other way to defend my borders but to extend them. And this axiom continued from Catherine to Joseph Stalin to Vladimir Putin, who is now annexed Crimea in 2014 and is now invaded Ukraine, making Ukraine the current battleground. As a consequence, every single country in the world has gotten embroiled in this crisis, and India will be no exception. Talking about a motherland, India is a motherland of millions of people following and practicing the policy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We believe and uphold the policy that the entire world is one family and we don't wage wars against our own. This can be evidently proven by the fact that even though we have the fourth largest army in the world, India has never invaded any foreign country, nor has it tried to illegitimately expand its borders. Not just that, India follows an active foreign policy which has developed greatly since independence. Our recent government has performed a fast-track diplomacy with two core approaches, namely neighborhood first and Act-East policy. Our country follows the principles of non-interference in the internal affairs of the country and non-alignment policy, with mutual respect, tolerance, and world peace as a key lens.
This explains India's stand and abstain vote. But let us look at the situations more closely. As Russia invaded Ukraine, India's biggest concern was the safety of approximately 20,000 Indian nationals stranded there. And given the need and help for evacuation, Abstaining was the best bet to avoid offending either side. Now, India's relation with Russian Federation is also time-tested, based on continuity, trust, and mutual national interest. As of now, India's biggest concern is securing good borders, especially with China. And that encroaching neighbor has been adding salt to the wound by taking favorable stance in the war. Moving on, we know that India has also garnered disapproval from US. The same US, the big brother who considers India as a bulwark against China. And China is the major contender of US at the moment. So from an Indian perspective, then why should India choose sides? And India did the same. It overtly sided with neither, because it is our belief that we cannot side with any of those things. It is our foreign policy, and India's foreign policy has shown that by and large, we can have our cake and eat it too by maintaining good diplomatic relations with countries hostile to each other. Moving on, we know that countries that do not need arms at the time of peace shall have not any at the time of war. And having seen Ukraine's US during the previous annexation, India maintained good diplomatic relations with Russian Federation for its military purposes. Moving on, we also know that India had to keep its national security as its key priority, for India lives in a very difficult neighborhood. That's why India overtly sided with neither of the countries. India lives in a very difficult neighborhood, as I said earlier. But Russia is also India's great friend, and its support in the UN has been unparalleled. On one hand, in 1957, it blocked a resolution to deploy UN troops in Kashmir, and on the very next hand, in 1961, it also blocked a resolution against India's sovereignty over Goa. But guess who was on the wrong side of the history on all these occasions? The United States of America. It even backed Pakistan openly in 1971 war. So, what I'm trying to say is that India has a very difficult neighborhood. So, it must keep its national security and national interest as its key and first and foremost priority.
Now let me take you to the economic front. You all know there have been sanctions on Russia, right? So the very basic thing that has happened as a consequence of those sanctions are that crude oil prices have soared. Now Russia is a major exporter of crude oil. So US and the West expect us to not buy from them. But Russia is also giving us oil at a discounted price. So we all are rational consumers, right? In economics, we call it that every consumer is a rational consumer. We must buy what is best for us. So India should buy Russian oil. The thing is, there are actually no sanctions on Russian gas and oil. US still buys it. NATO countries are also buying it. So they believe they can have both Russian gas as well as the moral high ground. India can have neither. Classic Western hypocrisy. But does that mean that I'm telling you to take sides with Russia? Does that mean I'm telling you to absolve Russia all its war crimes in Ukraine? Absolutely not. But as far as the war crimes of US are concerned, we all know the military interventions of US and NATO across the world in the name of democracy, mind you. We European consumers who consume a lot of information day in and day out. A lot of information is thrown out. And so our minds are used to polarization and sensationalization. We love seeing conflicts with the shades of either black or white. Was the hero good or is bad? He cannot be like a good bad or a bad good person. But India's foreign policy has always believed in the power of looking into the grey matter. This has helped us. We have always been at the forefront of things. So it has shown us that we can actually do best by following a foreign policy independent of foreign influence. As we can see, the bottom line is
This is simply not humanity war. Either to fight or to preach sermons against. Let's conclude with some lines from the Kalinga Nagar, which are quite.
ओम सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् ओम शांति शांति शांति. Thank you everyone and have a wonderful day. A very good morning to one and all listeners here. Today, as in Asia, I Sri. We are Team Kalinga and we are going to present the topic Impacts of Ukraine War on Indian-Foreign relations. And these are the topics we are going to discuss on: principles of Indian foreign policy, political impact, economic impact, and social impact. But before getting into the topic, let's know about the first two important concepts. First, what does exactly Indian foreign policy mean? Its objectives. Second, the existence and the importance of land. Like any other country, Indian foreign policy envisages to enhance its role across the nations, to make its presence like felt like an emergent country and provide a sphere of influence. And its objectives are to preserve its national interest, independence of the Afro-Asian nations, disarmament, and achievement of world peace. These objectives were made to be achieved by supplying principles like NAM, Panchi, and others. Now, talking about NAM, India is a non-aligned country. After all, it's one of the founding members of NAM, which is non-aligned. But what does exactly non-aligned mean? Is it isolation? Is it neutrality? No, it's not. Isolation is both man in the first half of the Second World War. It remained isolated, which means that it advocated to remain uninvolved in any of the Asian and the European crisis and in the international politics. And talking about the neutrality, neutral countries are those that neither participates in the war nor it helps in solving the crisis. Then what does this NAM countries? NAM countries play an active role in mediating between two rival countries for peace, stability, and harmony. It works vigorously to prevent war between others and helps ending the war. And we have even solved many crises and even prevented many Cold Wars from becoming a real war, such as the Korean crisis, the Congo crisis, and the Afghanistan crisis. But still, we have received a lot of criticism on the basis of two grounds. These are that it is said that our Indian national interest is said to be unprincipled because it has refused to take stands on some Christian international issues, and even it is said to be inconsistent as it signed a treaty with friendship with Russia in 1971. But India justified it by saying that it needed diplomatic and military support in the context of Bangladesh crisis. Now, the question will carry on. Moving on to the political impact, we can see that our country has remained isolated and it has remained neutral. But that has not prevented us to take an active stand in this war. We have taken an active interest by remaining absent in the Ukraine war for 9 times. And remaining absent does not mean that we are either supporting or we are staying away from the war. We have been on the side of peace, and we have been consistent in maintaining that. Because we feel that it is the immediate end of violence and no solution can come from shedding blood and giving the lives of innocent people. Here, in this war, if we have mediated in an indirect way by stating that both of these countries must fit together into a peaceful resolution. Moreover, we have seen that how we have been consistent in maintaining a long-standing friendly relations with Russia. And we have seen also examples how the Soviet Union has used their nuclear powers for 6 times. Take in the case of Kashmir crisis or the Goa invasion by the Portugal, etc. And remaining absent have not prevented us to provide India with humanitarian aid to the fellow Ukrainians and the Indian staff there. Also, we have seen that we have always acted upon our national interest, that is mainly because of our strategic dependence on Russia for the sophisticated arms. Moving on, we see how the acceleration in US has caused an international stir in mainly the two countries, that is, United States of America and United Kingdom. How it says that India's stand has been unsatisfactory, but it is quite unsurprising as we have been consistent in following that. Also, the Foreign Secretary Donald Wu has stated how India needs to take a clear position in this stand, and there is a new kind of logic, that is the emergence of Cold War, that either you are with us or you are against us. Moving on to United Kingdom, we see how this trust has negotiated a trade agreement in order to have a closer economic tie with the UK, and there has been emergence of trust deficient, escalation of Ukraine war, and several other reasons that have been responsible for dampening our relations with UK. Moving on to the still ongoing of today's time, I request Anisha to go on further.
Now, let's hear about some season ongoings going over here. Recently, a week ago, Joe Biden, who is the American president, on a video conference with our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, told us to join NATO, which our Indian Prime Minister firmly refused to support NATO. It will further polarize the division of the world on Russia and Ukraine war. And talking about Jayasankar has openly stated how India has maintained a global order, international law, UN Charter, and respect with sovereignty. And talking about Lavrov, in support of India's stand, Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov recently visited India to provide us oil at very subsidized rate, which is less than 28%, and India also tried to accept it and even thinking of buying it. And even our rival, which is Pakistan, Imran Khan, even saluted for our fact we stick to our national interest because we have always we have an independent foreign policy and have we also respect our national interest. Now, let's hear from Abhishek.
So I'll be starting with the economic impact. For the economic impact, I'll be beginning with the sanctions that has been imposed on Russia. America, along with other nations such as Switzerland and Germany, have imposed various sanctions on Russia. Among the US, greatest sanctions are imposed on mercenaries and military goods, flights, luxury goods, oil and gas. Due to these sanctions, the stock market of Russia has fell by over 30% and is likely to fall even more. This will have a very serious impact on the global economy. Now, moving on to the second part, the crude oil part. Russia is India's 25th largest trading partner. India key imports from Russia are coal, diamonds, and crude oil. Due to the war, the import bill of India has increased. Also, due to the rise in oil prices, the value of rupees is likely to depreciate, and also the inflation can go up. Also, the value of rupees is likely to depreciate, and the inflation may go up. Following the trend, the cost of aviation turbine fuel or ATF has also increased, increasing the operating expenses for the airlines, which in turn has resulted in increase in the airfare. Not only this, most of the industries dependent on transport will get affected negatively as they will face low margins. However, between all this, there is an industry. There is an industry which is getting a positive impact, and that is the steel industry. This is because it's a very long time. Russia and Ukraine were one of the major exporters of steel. But in this situation, India can step up and can export steel to other countries, giving an opportunity to the steel industry. Moving on to the fertilizers part, India is facing a shortage of fertilizers, as Russia and Ukraine are one of the most exporters of fertilizers. So this can affect the quantity of production in the next harvest season. India can also solve the food catastrophic problem by stepping in and exporting more wheat, as Russia and Ukraine were major exporters of wheat all over the world. But due to this war crisis, there has been a greater supply disruption of wheat in the world market. So India can export wheat to other countries at cheaper prices, as India is the second world's largest wheat and rice producer. Now moving on to the last part, However, India can get an advantage of this war by purchasing crude oil from Russia at cheaper prices when the global energy prices have been rising. This is because India is continuing its trade with Russia. And during the Ukraine invasion, there are very few buyers for the Russian crude oil. So this will help India to purchase crude oil or import crude oil from Russia at significant discounted price. So this was all about my part, the economic part. Now, my teammates, Manisha and Subhash will continue with the social.
Thank you all. We end with the social impact here, that how the education students are being suffering, and also the last quotation that if we do not end the war will end us in many ways. Thank you so much. Good morning, honorable jury members, respected teachers, and my dear co-participants. I am Ayushni Panda, with my co-participant, Om Sarajom Bali, welcome you all to our PowerPoint presentation, which is based on the topic, Impact of Ukraine's War on India's Foreign Relations. The invasion of Russia on Ukraine started on February 24, 2022. The war has indeed affected the entire world, morally, socially, and economically, and it is Europe's largest refugee crisis since World War II. India's stance on the war has raised concerns about India's foreign policies and relations, which continue to be driven by the principle of non-alignment or strategic autonomy. For the last 12 occasions in the UN, India has abstained from voting in the Russian-Ukraine war on resolution critical of Moscow's action. The anti-West alliance of the two authoritarian states, Russia and China, is worrisome for India. The China-Russian ties and India's relationship with the US in the Indo-Pacific region are significant points of departure. Now, against this unstable scenario, New Delhi's refusal to denounce Russia or to support the Western countries are not out of the ordinary. Recently, there have been speculations that India's guarded position is causing a fraying of the war, but it is not so. In fact, in the virtual board meeting, which was held on March 3, while discussing the broader implications on the Ukraine conflict, it emphasized that each partner of the board has a separate channel to separately respond to the crisis in Ukraine.
India shares a very strategic and partnership with Russia. India has not joined others in sanctioning Russia, rather it has upped the ties with it. India is the second largest importer of defense material, and Russia's war machines are frequently used along the Indian borders. Russia's share of India's defense import is around 46%, which shows India's great dependency on Russia for its military aid. Deals with Russia, oil is a key factor for India's autonomy. And in the recent years, due to the war, oil prices have grown rapidly. And the financial year 2021, India imported nearly 12 million barrels of crude oil from Russia, which accounts for only 2% of the total import done in that year. And now, Russia is offering India a great discount on the crude oil. And in the month of March 2022, Hindustan Petroleum signed a deal with Russia's agency to purchase nearly 3.5 million barrels of crude oil, and it will be delivered to India shortly. As a result of ongoing war, the Western companies have taken their interest from the Russian market, which created a lack of supplies in the Russian market. And now the Russian authorities want India's pharmaceutical companies to settle their infrastructure in Russia for manufacturing of medicines and other pharmaceutical items. And in this deal, India's sun farmer has taken interest.
Now, the war in Ukraine has made it quite clear that though India's political system is similar to that of the West, but its strategic interests and geopolitical compulsions vastly differ. The White House has periodically been reminding its strategic partner India the dangers of violating the American sanctions. The American sanctions on Russia will surely disrupt Russia's defense supplies to India, like could jeopardize the exports of the S-400 missiles, the leasing of the Abdullah-class submarines, and the export of the BrahMos missile by India. But it is, however, too early to say how these sanctions will impact India's existing relationship. Now, over the years, we all know that India has held numerous joint military exercises with the US and other European nations, which have led to a strengthened Europe-India and US-India bilateral relationship. But European Union is not pleased with India's act of appeasing both the West and the Russia in the Ukraine crisis. Though Europe-India ties have made a significant progress in the recent years, but India's act of appeasing both the West and the Russia is not out of the ordinary for the European Union. Brussels has been in constant dialogue with India over the Ukraine crisis, but it still states that India must condemn the attack on Ukraine's territorial integrity and take a tougher line on Russia.
India and China have failed to resolve the tension between their groups. There was a collision between India and China groups in the month of November and December in the year 2021. And since then, the groups of both the countries are on standby for war anytime. And during this time, India purchased S-400 missile system from Russia, and America says that it would not penalize India because it has purchased it for own safety rather to attack it on anyone. And understanding the situation, and America would let India purchase defense material from Russia and not penalize it.
Now, Russia has appreciated India's stance on the war as balanced and independent, while Ukraine is understandably deeply dissatisfied with India and it wants New Delhi to take a more proactive approach. But India is expressing solidarity with Ukraine and extending humanitarian aid to Ukraine, which is in line with India's larger value-based principles.
Due to the war, crude prices in India have risen drastically, resulting in crossing of price 110 in many parts of India, like the state of Maharashtra, Gujarat, Mumbai, etc.
Finally, on one hand, India is partnering with the USA in the Indo-Pacific region in order to restrict China, and on the other hand, it is also going with Russia to weaken away from China and Pakistan, at least in a rivalry with the Shia axis. But we all know that the war in Ukraine has certainly challenged that position. In fact, India has used both diplomatic channels and humanitarian aid to reach out to the international community and the war-torn region respectively. Thank you all.
A very good morning to everyone. I am Akanta Samal.
I am Vidura Samal and I am Malvina Bhattacharya.
We are here to present you the discussion on impact of Ukraine war on India's foreign relations. First of all, we will be discussing about the Russo-Ukrainian war. First of all, what is Russo-Ukrainian war? The Russo-Ukrainian war is an ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia together with the pro-Russian separatist forces. It first began on February 2014 following the Ukraine Revolution of Dignity and initially focused on the status of Crimea and parts of Donbass, internationally recognized as parts of Ukraine. Then, the first 8 years of the conflict included the Russian annexation of Crimea and war in Donbass between Ukraine and Russian-backed separatists, as well as naval incidents, cyber warfare, and political tensions. After the starting of the war in 2014, the Russian military built up the Russia-Ukraine border from late 2021. The conflict expanded significantly when Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. On 24 February 2022, amassing up to 190,000 troops along with their equipment. Russia demanded NATO cease expansion and bar Ukraine from ever joining the alliance permanently. The United States and others accused Russia of planning to attack Ukraine, which Russian officials repeatedly denied as late as 23rd February 2022. Launching the invasion on 24 February, it told the Russian people that its goal was to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine to protect the people from what they called 8 years of bullying and genocide by Ukraine's government. Moving on, we will be discussing about the India-Ukraine relations. As we all know that the war broke out was between Ukraine and Russia. So it is important to understand the relationship between India and Ukraine after and before the war. India has had friendly relations with Ukraine even when the latter was a republic part of the Soviet Union. Ukraine has been positively cooperating with India at the international level also. It also supported the issue of Jammu and Kashmir on the basis of similar agreement. Ukraine supports the resolution of the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. The India-Ukraine trade relation and economic cooperation has developed on the basis of long-standing friendship between the two countries. Both the Ukrainian and Indian Intergovernmental Commission hold the Joint Business Council meeting of Ukraine-India. The conflict in Ukraine is likely to have a very limited impact on the Indian shipping industry. Moving on, we will be discussing about the Russian dependence. As we all know that India depends on Russia for military equipment. So it's important to understand what India and Russia have in relationship. As we all know that they are having a friendly relationship in historical times. So whether it is having an impact on the war. No doubt it would have been difficult for India to quickly cut ties with Russia after the war, but India's deep reliance on Russia for military equipment likely had a significant influence on India's trade toward Moscow. About 97% of India's main battle tanks, 100% of its armored fighting vehicles, 67% of its submarines, and rest of the military equipment have been listed over there, and these were acquired from Russia or its predecessor, the Soviet Union. If India's need for Russian arms and commodities was the principal reason for New Delhi's trade toward Moscow, then that would suggest that India is not strategically independent at all. Rather, it would suggest that India is strategically dependent on Russia. That is not to say that such dependence is illogical. Indeed, past Indian leaders shows alignment with Soviet Union during most of the Cold War as a way to gain similar material benefits. Moving on, we will be discussing about the China factor. As you know that Russia is relying on China for the military equipment, so in near future it is possible that Russia and China may have a friendly relationship. So how does that impact on India? Will India and China will also have a positive relationship? We will be looking over that over here. Among the interested Indian leaders have at the back of their minds is their country's strategic rivalry with China. That's from the beginning of physical war in 2020, there are estimated 40 Chinese and 96 Indian soldiers that either killed or wounded with the problem. With tensions still high on its border with China, India probably feels a greater need to maintain good relations with Russia should those tensions boil over into a full-scale conflict. Then that too over, India will need a ready access to Russian arms. Moreover, Russia's ties with China could help to restrain it or perhaps even mediate a resolution. Moving on, we will be discussing about dissatisfactory Indian response, Ukraine and war. The Ukraine representatives stated their dissatisfaction on India's response of weak interest on both the sides. The Ukraine, along with the Western countries such as USA, etc., think that India is supporting and siding with the Russia after that hit to Ukraine. So, is that true or not? We will be discussing it over here. India's position also shows the unmistakable indication that when it comes to geopolitics, then we always choose interest over principle. More tensions between Russia and the West versus balancing extremes will be a key feature of Indian diplomacy. About India's neutrality, people are representing.
Now, we are going to discuss about India's neutrality. India would have been receiving any of its approvals no matter which side it took. But as a rising power contending with India's minimum expectation is problematic, because India has greater agency in shaping diplomacy and crisis unlike in the past. India has long prided itself in a strategically independent or non-aligned foreign policy. But the 2002 Russian-Ukrainian war has put India's approach to strategic independence under the international spotlight. Western leaders hope that India would have aligned itself with Ukraine and against Russia, especially given New Delhi's growing involvement in the Quad grouping of major Indo-Pacific democratic countries in recent years. But India did not. Instead, it pursued an approach that seemed to favor Russia. Yearly in the war, India twice abstained from United Nations resolutions that condemned Russian actions in Ukraine. Also, earlier in the war, India tries to abstain from the United Nations resolutions that condemned Russian actions in Ukraine. It also sought to keep its trade with Russia growing even as West tried to restrict Russian access to global markets. In the mid-March, India allowed its refineries to buy Russian oil despite of Western efforts to curtail international purchase of it. Now we are going to discuss about the impact of foreign policy. India's responses to the Russian aggression on the Ukraine underlines the fact that India is operating from a position of geographical vulnerability. While the India stands the needs of inequality, it needs more of strategic weaknesses. Here is the country located in hostile neighborhood, trying to make the best of the terrible situation.
And to end.
The image you see on your right is Syria's Aleppo, reduced to rubble as a result of the Syrian civil war. The image you see on your left is Ukraine's Mariupol in the year 2022, again reduced to rubble. They have again failed humanity. Good morning, everyone. I'm Shubham. This is Omkar, and we are here to calculate India's stand in the Russo-Ukraine war. On the 24th of February, early morning, the Russian Federation announced a special military operation on Ukraine in order to denazify and demilitarize Ukraine. 2 months into the war, and here, Kiev hasn't fallen yet, and we see that both sides of the inflicted huge military losses. But more than the military losses, it is civilians who have suffered the agent of the war. As of today, millions of refugees or millions of Ukrainians have become refugees across Europe, and thousands have perished, as the images from Bucha and Mariupol suggest. But before we take it further, let us understand the diplomatic relations two countries shared. Until 2014, Russia and Ukraine shared very important relations. But in 2014, Russia annexed the Kalinga Peninsula of Ukraine. Following which, the two regions in Ukraine's east, Donetsk and Lugansk, announced their independence and declared a war against Ukraine. And since then, till today, the war is on. The region is under war for almost 8 years now, under the gruesome war. Let me brief you a bit about the history of the two countries. So, during the Cold War times, which lasted from the 1960s to the 1990s, there were two main military alliances in the world. One was the NATO, which was led by the US, and the other was the Warsaw Pact, which was led by the USSR. And to note it, Ukraine was a part of the USSR until it is in the year 1991. So after 91, when the Soviet Union is integrated, the Warsaw Pact ceased to exist, but the NATO continued. The NATO continued to expand eastwards, and now today, at this juncture, Ukraine is ever inclined to join the NATO, which actually threatens Russia's security interests in Europe and around. So coming to the reasons, as I stated that Ukraine is ever inclined to join the NATO today, the green exports of Ukraine and also the warm water ports are reasons of contention behind Russia's offensive on Ukraine. The West has reacted to Russia's actions by some of the harshest economic sanctions, excluding Russia out of the global payment system SWIFT and arming Ukraine with some of the most advanced weapons in this generation. Now I would like to leave the floor to my co-speaker, Aishwarya Priyadarshini.
We will continue with India's stance in this matter. As the war expands over a month, India's diplomacy is at stake. We'll start with a quote from our External Affairs Minister, S. Jaishankar. If India has chosen the side, it is the side of peace and to immediately end violence. So let's start with a general overview of India's relationship with Russia and Ukraine. The relationship with Russia consists of defense, politics, and bilateral relations. So they started the relationship with the Kashmir issue when Russia supported India as the Soviet Union and the friendship was kickstarted. Then we have the bilateral trade and military exchange, which has increased over 24% in the past years. Moreover, we have these organizations that both India and Russia are a part of. Then we have the Ukraine, which has also had decent relations with India. India being one of the first countries to recognize Ukraine as a sovereign nation. And they have also had similar economical trades. And Ukraine also extended its support in India's stance with the Shimla peace treaty. Next, we have the contrast between the Crimea annexation and the 2022 full-fledged war, where we can see India's lead towards true neutrality. In 2014, India resorted to silence and actually accepted the legality of Russia's control over the Crimean territory. But in 2022, India continues its works for peaceful resolution, but criticizes the atrocities that Russia had imposed on the Ukrainian territory. Next, we have the status quo of the current situation. As we can see, the political sphere over here, we have the exchange dialogue of peace, where our Prime Minister urged both the leaders of the nation, Zelensky and Putin, and expressed deep concerns for their countries and asked for immediate cease of violence. Moreover, there has been more representation in the UN Council Conference, where India has acted 7 times, proving its true neutrality towards this issue. There has been many criticisms to this silence, but countries like UK have actually supported India's neutrality in this case. Next, we have the economical position when we have the military trade with Russia. As we know, India is the second largest market for Russia's arms export, and India shares 40% of its imports from Russia. So we can see how India is dependent on Russia for its military alliances. Then we have the infamous oil purchase where India was heavily criticized by India. But this was an opportunist move and the decision was purely diplomatic. As the skyrocketing oil prices forced India to go for the cheapest option possible. Then we have the pharmaceuticals, which actually took the head in this war, as India has to now find a replacement for Ukraine for its exports and imports. Then we have a social sphere, where India continues to support its policies of humanitarian crisis. Then we have the Operation Ganga, where India managed to rescue 22,000 students from Ukraine as a rescue mission. Then we have the BHUBANESWAR, where India actually condemned Russia for its actions. It upholds its principle for non-alliance and neutrality, and the permanent representative in UN Council, P.S. Trivedi, actually supported India's stance.
Proceeding with the premise set aside by Shivam and Aishwarya, we would like to talk about the projected trends. There are no permanent rules or trends in the world of international relations. There exists only permanent relations. There exists only permanent interests. So India is currently facing a conundrum. We are walking on eggshells in our diplomacy, trying to incorporate the tradition of non-alignment alongside the current situation of multilateralism in the economic and the strategic space. So firstly, there is a concern over the possible aggravation of this crisis into a global conflict, where both India and China are maintaining neutrality against the claim to. While India is distancing itself from the Russian Federation, China is showing greater affinity towards Russia, which might end up with India seeking aggressive ties with the European Union and the United States of America. There is a projection of Thank you. So on a concluding note, not taking further time, the way over India's geopolitics lies in the maximum pursuit by we believe that India should continue with its policy of non-alignment, with its policy of multilateralism, which should wait for sensationalism and the factions to die off, and it should abstain from any form of military involvement and continue the extension of economic and humanitarian. Thank you for the patience here.
Good morning, judges. This is my team, represented by Ms. Deboni and my team, Somyani and Anisha. Today marks the 67th day of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, has become stubborn and non-negotiable, generating extreme nationalism. That is a good thing. The Russian president has become an aggressor day by day. Putin's aggression has been to our most threat, and many have accused him of showing his imperialist ways. The NATO, USA, and the European Union have been making occasional retaliatory statements, thus inflaming the situation rather than resolving the crisis. So, friends, who won or who lost? Or we can say who is going to win or who is going to lose. Nobody wins. In fact, both winning and losing depends on the logic of their wins. At this moment, it seems Ukraine is going to lose, but Russia will not win. In the midst of this difficult situation, what has been India's policy? And how has the war impacted India? Talking about India's foreign policy, let's know about its 4 pillars. Non-alignment, Afro-Asian unity, support to UN for global sustainable peace, and peaceful coexistence with its neighbors. Now let's listen to Somyani for the further details.
Thank you, Begoli. Till date, India is following the same foreign policy or based on the same principles. Many understand that non-alignment is an isolation or neutrality, but this is wrong. India has been actively involved in resolving global, regional, and bilateral disputes peacefully. In case of the Russia-Ukraine war, India has maintained its policy of non-alignment. Unlike China, India has not supported Russia's aggression on Ukraine and at the same time has sent humanitarian assistance and food grains to the war-armed Ukraine. It has also advocated both the nations to come on negotiations and call democratic resolutions to the dispute. During this time, India has abstained 9 times in the United Nations against Russia. Many have criticized India's stand. The West, led by the USA, has also pressurized us to support the stand taken by the NATO and the the European Union in the UN by declaring economic sanctions against Russia. But how will it be possible to vote against a long-standing friendship with Russia? In 1971, on the face of Washington, Beijing, and Islamabad axis, it was the one and only Soviet Union which unconditionally supported India by signing the 20 years treaty of peace and friendship with India. So friends, the world has come to understand the policy, the principles of the foreign policy of India. In the recently concluded virtual summit between Prime Minister Modi and Joe Biden, the American president tried to win away India's support to the NATO, which the Indian Prime Minister very politely refused. There are many more ways. The American Foreign Secretary, Anthony Blinken, accused India and pressurized India in the presence of the Indian Foreign Affairs Minister, that is Mr. S. Jaishankar. He accused and stated that America is watching the human rights violations in India. Wait, is it US hegemony? No way for us. Look how he defended. Mr. S. Jaishankar so assertive stated, and I quote, India is also watching the human rights violations in the USA. Sergei Lavrov, the Russian Foreign Affairs Minister, offered us subsidized oil and gas from Russia. The Europe got alerted. So the British Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss, insisted that India must not buy subsidized oil and gas from Russia. Our proactive Foreign Affairs Minister got smarter, and he again stated, I would like to quote it, what India will buy in 1 month is very less than what Europe is going to buy, is buying in 1 hour. These statements made by this Indian minister have made him quite a hero on the social media. This looks like a very intricate situation. USA is India's largest trading partner. Russia is its biggest defense partner. USA is a core ally to India against China, and Russia a time-tested strategic ally. It is what I have to submit before you now, and Desha will help.
Thank you, Samrani. But the problems for our country do not end here. Former American Foreign Secretary Hillary Clinton recently stated that in case of a future Sino-India war, India should expect the same support from the US and NATO. But my dear listeners, we are unmoved. And the world has a clearer. But my dear listeners, we are unmoved and the world has acclaimed us. Our enemies, Pakistan and China, have praised our foreign policies. Former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan, in his recent interview, stated that India does not let any foreign power influence its decision making, and that is the reason why we are standing so tall and so strong. The official newspaper of PRC, People's Republic of China, that is Global Times, has published that the American leadership must learn how to talk to emerging nations like India. The support we got is actually quite long. And in this list, we did not forget to include Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister who recently visited India. And in his meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he very categorically spoke that he respects the historic friendship that India shares with Russia. And as a sovereign independent nation, we are allowed to do as our wish and take our foreign policy ahead. No superpower, no country can ever dictate us and tell us what to do. Where India is standing today in mere 75 years of independence, it is truly remarkable. Although we can say that we have a little bit of coldness going on with America at this point in regards to the Russo-Ukraine crisis,
But the relations remain completely strong and fine at the coordination, also known as the Asian NATO. Love in Tokyo was an article suggests from Times of India. It is a relentless effort from the side of America to cajole us and our support in the Russo-Ukraine crisis. My dear listeners, I think it's a very intricate, interesting, and challenging situation we are having right here. But in all these chaos, the one thing that remains strong and standing against Himalaya is the foreign policy and foreign policy. Leaders may change, ideologies may change, but the one thing that remains constant is the national interest. The policy of national interest that we have been following for years. Our enemies have supported us. We can say that East or West India is the best. At the end, our presentation shall remain incomplete without paying respect to the present decision makers. And we understand that it is less of an impact that the Russo-Ukraine war has on India and more of an impact that the Indian foreign policy, the independent and sustainable Indian foreign policy is having on the global community. This is the most defining moment in the history of Indian foreign policy, and that will be all on our side. Thank you, Jai Hind.
No outcome of the war is more valuable than the lives that are at stake. With this, a glorious morning to one and all present over here. Today, I engage on this one with my partners, Mukta and Yaditya, would like to explain you about the most recent topic, impact of Ukraine's war on India's foreign relations. So let me quote an excerpt of Rig Veda. Come together and let our minds be in harmony. Common be our prayer and common be our end. Common be our purpose and common be our deliberations. Common be our desires and common be our heart. United be our intentions and perfect be the union among us. To sum up, war is only justified when it is meet to fight against evil and injustice. War does not justify who is right. It only justifies who is right. So, here are the objectives of our presentation which we are going to explain. So, now I would like to explain when the war occurred, how the war occurred, and why the war occurred. The attack on Ukraine was the onset of war in Europe, which started with the invasion of Russia and Europe on 24 February 2022 by Russia's President Vladimir Putin. How? Since the invasion of Crimea in 2014, Ukraine has been leading the Europe war for nearly 8 years. Russia's major invasion of Ukraine first started with air and missile attacks before sending troops to countries' northern, eastern, and western borders. Why? Both the countries have been hostile to each other after the dissolution of USSR in 1991. So, Russia's president's initial goal was to overrun Ukraine and depose its government, and it forgot its desire to join the Western Defensive Alliance NATO. So now I would like to explain the impact of the war in the whole world. So, world political crisis. As far as political concern, the world is getting divided into two parts. One are the supporters of Russia like China, and the other is supporting Ukraine like US and its allies. Access to oil. Sanctions have already been imposed on Russia by US and its allies, which is severely affecting the prices of oil, which has already begun. Now it's over to Mukta. Mukta, please.
Thank you, Anisha. So now, my topic of discussion is the effects on India due to the war. As we know, the products which are mainly consumed or produced by Russia and Ukraine spices are increasingly costly. So there are many effects on India, so let's discuss them one by one. Starting with wheat. As we know, Russia has the bread basket of the world, and it is the major exporter of wheat too. Now, as we know, India is now suffering from a great loss and the wheat part. The wheat from Gujarat, Rajasthan is now delivered at a price of rupees 2,400 to 2,500. Next, moving on to the edible oil part. As we know, the price of edible oil and oil seeds are skyrocketing day by day. The edible oils contain sunflower oil, palm oil, soybean oil, and many other things. The 79% of India's edible oil requirements are fulfilled by Ukraine, but the rest of the needs are not fulfilled, which is a great advantage for the master producers of rice. Next, moving on to the crude oil part. Russia is the third largest producer of crude oil and is the third largest coal exporter of coal too. Raw materials for synthetic fibers are not available right now, so it's an advantage for the cotton industries of India. Next, moving on to the fertilizers part. The Black Sea dispute has affected fertilizers in various ways, such as prices, export and import, etc. The international prices of fertilizers like urea, diammonium phosphate, and etc. have risen. As we know that Russia and Belarus are the major exporters of FOP, that is nucleate of potash. Next, moving on to the palladium part. Palladium is the rarest earth metal, and Russia is the major exporter of it. Along with it, 45% of global palladium needs are met by Russia. It's a semiconductor, and it is also used to produce different electronic devices such as laptops, mobile phones, and last but not the least, education. A number of students, mainly from India, who went to Ukraine to pursue their medical career, are the worst sufferers in this war. Next, we will move to the graph. So this graph shows how India will be affected in the future if this war continues further. So the project goods will be affected 32.5%, edible oil will be affected 11.5%, fertilizers 11.1%, paper products 6.6%, crude oil and coal 2.8%, chemicals 2.4%, precious stones 1.6%, and iron and steel 1.1%. For further discussion, I would like to invite Aditya.
Thank you, Mukha. Now, we want to conclude the topic. So we can say that it is really a testing time for India to take a particular stand in the current political situation. India neither supports Russia nor it supports Ukraine, as both the countries have strategic importance in various sectors of our nation. India does not believe in bullying any Western mega power or superpower or any allied organization to take a particular stand. As far as India stands, India has abstained from voting against Russia, but this does not mean that India supports Russian aggression. India seeks peace and wants to resolve the conflict as soon as possible and as diplomatically as possible. India's foreign policy is balanced and based on non-alignment, and it shows its true character. Thank you.
It is not enough to win a war. Rather, it is important to maintain peace. A very happy good morning to everyone gathered over here. Esteemed chairs, respected jury, and my loving friends. Today I, Purnima, and I, Ira, are going to share our views on the topic impacts of Russia-Ukraine war on India's foreign relations. So, this is the content of our presentation. been a country in the last 10,000 years of history. We are the fraternity of world peace, and we follow the principle of the postulate Kutumbakam. Even Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, the father of our nation, wrote a letter to Hitler addressing him as end of the conflict of Second World War. For the sake of humanity, because he knew that Hitler was the only person who could end the conflict and protect humanity from the great damage. So, history proves that India is a peaceful country.
Do you know what was India's response to international crisis in the past? Russian troops were stationed in Hungary during the Hungarian Revolution in 1956. It continued having a non-conflict resolution throughout the past. In the Hungarian Revolution, it does not mean that this is the past of India's history, which proves that it had non-conflict relations with other countries.
So, let us have a look on India's foreign relations. The objectives of India's foreign relations are to promote international peace and security, foster respect for international law, peaceful settlement for international disputes by arbitration. The basic principles of governing India's foreign policies are Panchasheel, the policy of non-alignment, the policy of anti-colonialism and racism, peaceful settlement of international disputes. So, let us look into them in detail. Panchasheel. Panchasheel is mainly composed of 5 facts. Panchasheel first, peaceful coexistence, equality for mutual benefit, mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty, non-interference in others' internal matters, anti-colonialism and racism. It is too an important feature of India's foreign policy. India has always opposed the rule of colonialism and racism. For instance, India has opposed the apartheid system of South Africa. It has also opposed the illegal job system of Namibia in South Africa. And India has supported the Indonesian nationality during the post-colonialism in 1957. The non-alignment policy. Non-alignment is too an important policy of India's foreign policy. The aim of non-alignment is to provide the nation's independence in foreign affairs. Non-alignment is a very dynamic concept which is neither isolation nor neutrality.
Now let us know what was India's attitude during Russia-Ukraine war. Though India had close relations with Russia, but it did not support Russia during the war. The argument over the North Atlantic Treaty Organization is an explanation of the crisis. It helps to justify the non-committal attitude of India, which abstained from Russia's invasion of Ukraine in the UN Security Council. Meanwhile, Modi held talks with Zelensky and Vladimir Putin and called for an immediate end to the conflict. India has neither supported Russia in its violent actions, nor it went against Russia in the Nations General Assembly resolution.
Operation Ganga. It is an evacuation mission in which all the Indians who were stranded in Ukraine were brought back to India. And at the same time, this is a very proud moment to note that the war was halted after the request of India's government. And at the same time, people of different countries who were stranded in Ukraine by using India's flag has the same evacuation. India's stand has been shared globally. The Prime Minister of Australia has indicated that even the Square has accepted and understands India's balanced position. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi had appreciated India's for not being one sided. Pakistan former Prime Minister Imran Khan also appreciated India's for its balanced position during the war. UK PM Boris Johnson had a two-day visit to India on April 21 for a bilateral treaty, though he is a strong member of NATO. He stated that India and UK would have a long-lasting relationship. President Joe Biden will meet our Prime Minister Narendra Modi on May in Tokyo. These are the evidences that prove that India's foreign relations are pretty good. The primary goals of India's foreign policy is to preserve, promote and protect national interest. India is not a state country of any great power and retains the right to make decisions. This proves that India does not promote war. It has been and it will continue adhering to its foreign policies. With this, I would like to conclude our presentation. Thank you for your patient hearing and have a wonderful Saturday.
Words may inspire, but action causes change. India, being one of the biggest democracies, comes in with bold actions for every situation. And these situations have their own repercussions. A very pleasant morning to everyone present over here. This is Sai Sankalpran with my fellow teammates Gopal Rao and Divya Shabari. Would like to present our views on today's agenda, impact of war on India's foreign relations. Now, I invite upon Gopal to introduce the topic to the audience. More than an end to war, we want to end the beginnings of all war. This is such a really beautiful line, quoted by the late Franklin Roosevelt, that sits just on this global situation that has unfolded. As history has repeated itself, it's war in Europe. People are dead and dying. Cities are turned into mud and rubble. And in this morally downward situation, where does exactly India see itself? India has not particularly chosen any side, but it's not a new thing that India and Russia have been old allies. Having said that, the question remains, why has India chosen neutrality? To be profound, India is the diplomatic dilemma. It could either have Russia as a powerful ally or lose Russia as a powerful ally by declaring Russia's move on Ukraine as an illegitimate violation by means of economic sanctions and import tax, as several Russian countries have done. Either of these are apt diplomatic measures for India to take. So, what keeps India on a neutral stand? The reason can be that India has unequal relationships with Ukraine and their Russian counterparts. But there needs to be a certain reason beyond it. What is the profound cause of this war? What is beyond the periphery and below the surface? The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, has been pressing against Russia on several fronts. But geopolitically, what exactly are those fronts? And on a macro perspective, was Ukraine going to be one of them as it joined the NATO? And if so, where does India see itself in this great game? The NATO is the crux of war, and it is a heavy statement to make. The question arises, if it would have prevented the war itself. All of this is remarkably complex for India to digest, and India finds itself in a complex geopolitical situation. As Europe is in turmoil, India's foreign policy is in question. Despite all odds, India has clung to one of its golden rules in diplomacy, that is neutrality. But there is still some question in the air about it, whether or not India will be able to reconcile with this global threat, whether or not this neutrality of India means silence. However, the most remarkable thing that India has done is to stand by its autonomous reasoning and yet appear to the world as an alternative democracy. Does NATO have any say in India's stand? What is the solution to this problem? We should find the answers of these really intriguing questions through my teammate, Sai Sankalpran. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Gopal.
The increase in bond of NATO and Ukraine in some recent account has been a distressing factor for Russia and believed to be the main reason behind the Russian and the Ukraine war. At the beginning of the war, India abstained from voting anything against Russia and UNSC. India has yet not chosen any sides, but contents of what has been happening in the globe. When the whole world was boycotting India, India did its previous relationships with Russia, had purchased crude oil from them at a very reasonable rate, and had provided the Russian economy with a much needed little boost. With all the sanctions imposed upon Russia, the India seems to have an immense opportunity to expand its horizons over there. With the implementation of the SWIFT ban and all other economic sanctions, the Russian economy seems to be at the verge of collapsing. Here's how all the transactions in Russia are next to impossible to do. Here's how the Indian-made UPI can come into effect and expand its horizons over there. With India getting a little advantages in this position, countries like USA and Britain are trying their level best to make India lean towards the side and choose sides at the war. With the current Atmanirbhar Bharat taking on its effect, India has recently cancelled a multi-billion-dollar deal with Russia comprising of 48 Mi-17 helicopters. This news has been wrongly covered by the Western media, believing it as a decision taken under the influence of the Western world, which is clearly not the case. In some recent accounts, the ties between the European Union and India has been seen on getting at a good point, with the current European Union leader, France, being seen giving statements understanding India's neutrality at the war. With the sinking of the Moscow warship by the Ukrainian forces, Russia is giving stern warnings for a third world war, which will surely force India to look more into their foreign policies and amend them in the future if required. Now, I would like to pass over the order of speech to Divyansha for all the further proceedings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Science Uncle. Now, isn't this the case of hypocrisy and sheer irony that the countries which are criticizing India at this point are the same countries which are meeting expectations from? Now, from the topic, it has been seen that why India is so important in this matter. Why is the topic is today? Diving into the topic, the Russia's fall on Ukraine has been decisively shaping the international opinion. India's foreign policy is also going to be affected in a profound manner by this. India and Moscow have been in the great relation since the time of the Cold War era, especially against the pro-Pakistan activism movement by the Western powerful countries. But this time, the Indians seem to be taken aback by the misadventure of Russia against the sovereign country. As we all know, many countries of the world have put down unprecedented sanctions on Russia for their energy supplies. But amidst the growing concerns, India is mostly concerned about the growing global finance, transportation, and the energy supplies which they could provide amidst and the constraint of the ability to import the cheap Russian oil. Apart from that, many Western media criticize India for taking a balanced and neutral position, but India getting unfavored by all this and being standing still at one point is at its right point. But this is the Russian angle this time, which is making it more complex and creating a threat to the Indian autonomy. Now, as we know, many world leaders like Boris Johnson and Emmanuel Macron Zelensky have tried to involve India in one side or the other. They have tried to make India biased for their own policies. The thing is, most of the countries that have expectations from India because they believe that India can only bring out the peace in the world. But our Minister of External Affairs, S. Jaishankar, in the Rice
untitled chapter ever. With this, I would like to end with a question that are we all humans? Then why just we can't live with peace? Thank you.
I'm pretty sure each and one of you would have already heard about the Russia-Ukraine war. I mean, that's the entire reason that all of us are here gathered today. However, when I first heard about it, I was really shocked. I was shocked because in today's world, we have self-cars powered by artificial intelligence that can drive better than most human beings. We also have artificial intelligence programs that can write English better than most human beings. How could we live in such a world where political fights lead to such massive destruction of loss of life and property? It perplexes me how sometimes artificial intelligence can be better than humans themselves. However, when I started reading about it, I was bombarded with a lot of information. I was able to understand what exactly was happening. So many things going on at one particular time. It was a genuine problem indeed. A very good morning to everybody present over here, respected judges, teachers, and my fellow presenters. We are not here to give you a seminar per se. Our goal for today is simple. We want to help you understand the impact of Ukraine war on India's foreign relations in the most simple way possible. And you, our audience, are going to be the judge of how well we do that. Here's our team.
I am Simanshuga. I am Anushka Mahanti.
And I am Abhishek Mahan. Here are the key aspects that we're going to cover in our presentation today. We can divide our presentation into three distinct categories. First of all, we're going to talk about India's foreign policy. Secondly, we'll look at the present scenario. And lastly, we'll touch upon the possible consequences. Coming to India's foreign policy, the 5 principles known as Funshi, stated in the Sino-Indian Agreement 1954, are known as the backbone of India's foreign policy. Our entire foreign policy is based upon these 5 principles. Coming to the features of India's foreign policy, India is a firm believer in the United Nations and is a strong advocate of world peace. It also believes in anti-racialism, anti-colonialism, and anti-imperialism. India also has a very strong belief in maintaining friendly relations with our neighbors, and it believes in conducting regional cooperation. And lastly, it also believes in the policy of non-alignment. Coming to the present scenario, so what exactly is happening between Russia and Ukraine at the moment? To understand what's happening, let's understand what NATO is. NATO was created in 1949 by United States, Canada, and several other Western European countries to provide collective security against the Soviet Union. And that sounds complicated, but in layman's terms, you can think of NATO and the United States being on one side of the war and Russia being on the other side of the war. So how exactly did the conflict break out, you may ask? What happened with both the relations of Ukraine and NATO was a matter of deep concern for Russia. Being threatened by this potential alliance, which would lead to Russia's political boundaries of over 2,000 kilometers being compromised, Vladimir Putin, in November of 2021, started giving multiple warnings to Ukrainian President Zelensky. Despite being given multiple warnings, he did not pay any heed to any of them. Which is why, in February of 2022, Vladimir Putin finally started taking military action against them. But wait, before we dive deeper into India's position to this conflict, let's understand India's relationship with the two countries. Over to Manish.
To understand the relationship of Russia and India, we need to understand a key factor. And the key factor is the geopolitical dependence of India on Russia. So, as we can see, India requires also support in resolving territorial conflicts with China and to avoid consolidation of power among countries like Russia, China, and Pakistan. And moreover, Russia has always supported India in United Nations regarding the Kashmir issues. Secondly, let's talk about the Indo-Russian military interdependence. 49% of Indian defense imports are from Russia. And similarly, 28% of Russian defense imports are from India. It is believed that 50% of Indian arms are of Russian origin. Now, let's talk about the relation India has had with Ukraine. Now, there are many instances where Ukraine went against India. First, we can see Ukraine pushed for intervention on Kashmir after revocation of Article 370 in the UN. Secondly, UN had objected India's nuclear mission, Operation Shakti, in 1998. Third, it voted against India in the permanent membership of UN Security Council. And lastly, it provided $1.6 billion of weapons to Pakistan to use them against India. Now, despite all these activities, India was the very first country to recognize Ukraine's sovereignty. And not only that, we can see that both the countries have rather an impressive trade relationship. Over to Singh. In the third subtopic, we are going to talk about the possible consequences of the war. If you remember, in the previous slides, we talked about the features of Indian foreign policy, talking specifically about the NAM policy at the time of Cold War, when the war was divided into two fronts, the USA and the USSR. India chose to remain neutral and not take any sides. Let us now analyze where India stands in the current scenario. Firstly, why can't India stand against Russia? India cannot afford to do so at the moment, considering its major economic, defense, and geopolitical requirements. India follows the NAM policy, thereby refraining from taking any side at the time of crisis. But why can't India stand against Ukraine? Well, let's have a glance at some pictures and data. 46,000 is the number of total casualties in the Russo-Ukraine war so far. 10 million is the total number of Ukrainians that have left their homes and migrated to neighboring countries. This is the picture of displaced Ukrainians in refugee camps. Now, imagine yourself in this situation. Imagine waking up one day to a country under scope of military operation, and you have to leave your entire life group behind. Let that sink. These are the pictures of Ukraine before and after war. This is the city of Mykolaiv, and that is the city of Kyiv, shattered into pieces. Coming back to why can't India stand against Ukraine? India has good relations with Washington as well. Thus, it cannot go all in against Ukraine. Moreover, India has always followed humanitarian principles and ethics. India hasn't criticized Russia directly, but strongly talked about geopolitical integrity at the UN, and it strongly talks about Ukraine's plan. On March 2nd, the United Nations General Assembly voted 141 to 5 on a resolution condemning Russia for invading Ukraine. India, the world's largest democracy, abstained from the war. India is taking a diplomatic stance by encouraging to take a dialogue-based approach. Violence is never the solution. There are no ifs and buts to it. Loss of life is never a joke. Political power plays between global superpowers should never be entertained at the expense of the common man. Wars do not bring lasting peace, only lasting death. We as humans must be better than this, at least for the sake of humanity. Thank you everyone for your patience.
What brings tears? What simply brings tears? A very body to find out present in this species for esteemed jury members and my dear emulators. And the Shamsuddin belonging to the city of Brotherhood feels highly elated to be given a chance to present my views on the fury of war in contrast to world peace. Dear friends, the prevailing war in Ukraine has no doubt brought about a catastrophic impact in the lives of all. Common life has been disrupted. Loss of lives and property has no doubt brought upon the tragic scenario for which the exhausting tears of people quest for existence. And while the war rage also seems to be a word from blue. Can this heart-throbbing situation be pacified? Will man swallow his own blood of sufferings and persecution? Will the antipathy and hostility among two nations will cause untold perils? To magnify this privileged issue, I would like to call upon my dear negative impacts of this Russo-Ukrainian war on Indian economy and trade relations. The first one is adverse effect on the economy and the trading process. Russia is one of India's largest trading partners. On an average, India imports goods and services worth 36 billion Indian rupees to Russia, and Russia exports goods and services worth 50 billion Indian rupees. The imports mainly include crude oil and goods. Because of the ongoing scenario, Russia is unable to export the goods and services, and same goes with India. It is also unable to give away the commodities. On the other hand, 90% of the edible oil in India comes from Ukraine, and we also import the pharmaceutical items. Thus, the foreign trade and relation is intensely affected because of the devastating crisis. Coming to the second point, the inflating prices. Amidst the far ongoing crisis, oil prices have spiraled up to a limit of $90 per barrel. The skyrocketing prices will not have a direct impact on the foreign relations, but will cause indirect consequences. The third point here is the transport impact. It is expected that the cost of international flights may shoot up by 25 to 45% between the ongoing crisis or the scenario. It will create a huge problem for the Indian bureaucracies to travel through international flights, and it will put a direct impact on the foreign relation. Coming to the last point, that is the impact on the stock market or the stock market crash. It is observed that the foreign portfolio investors have presently turned out to be net sellers. They have pulled out a worth of 51,000 crores from Indian equities. Thus, the balance of negativity in this context is maximum. Then we can say that it has a direct and exact impact on the Indian economy and foreign relations from this aspect. The world doesn't suffer a lot because of the violence of the bad people, but because of the silence of the good people, well said by Napoleon.
Thank you, Pratiksha. Thank you, Pratiksha. You are all right. But thank you, Pratiksha. You are all right. But it is said that the crisis always brings some of the good opportunities. Now, I am going to present the positive impact of Russo-Ukrainian war on India. Coming on to the first positive impact, that is welcoming refugees. As the war is progressing, it is possible that the refugees might come to India. So, because of India's foreign policies, India will provide them with all the basic facilities. Thus, in due course of time, they can be transformed into an exemplary asset benefiting the country to economic development and as well as good foreign relations. Coming on to the second positive impact, journey towards an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Because of the ongoing crisis and India's position in a diplomatic dilemma, India needs to become more independent and self-reliant. Thus, in future, so that it will not depend on developed countries like Russia due to various commodities. So that in future, India will become a developed country and invite various countries to come and set a strong relation with India. Coming on to the third positive impact, that is development in international trade. We all know that Russia and Ukraine contribute 10 to 11% of the global steel export and 25% of the wheat supply. So because of the war, their supply chains are frequented. So India, as we all know, it is the second largest producer of both steel and wheat. So can utilize this chance to become a big pull in the global trade and can develop its foreign relations. Coming on to the fourth positive impact, that is neutral stand during the war. The Russo-Ukrainian war is a catalyst for India's good foreign relations. For this, India has achieved a diplomatic victory, we can say. Because of India's neutral position, America believes that it is equally important as Russia to India. On the other hand, Russia also believes that India's neutral stand is a pro-Russian state.
So India in this way has kept good relation with both the war countries and because of its neutral stand.
I have this one. Who suffers the most during the war? Yes, it's the people. I have a question for everyone. Why the innocent mass will pay the price of the sins committed by some inhuman people? Why the cries of the orphan children and the widowed women are filling our ears every day with a question and a fear of existence? Why every mind has a question, will I be able to see tomorrow's morning? Yes, this is all because the world has evolved a lot. Nobody has believed that the world would evolve to such an extent that killing someone is much easier than India is on the path of progress. And during this path, always we have speed breakers to test us. But it depends on us how we take benefit of it. Rather, get stumbled on it. India is always and diplomatic role in different political and geopolitical conditions. For taking an instance, during the war, when no country was able to stop the war and promote peace, India was able to stop the war for 6 hours only to evacuate the medical students. This shows that India is on the path of development and it can show the world that it is much developed and it is going to be a superpower in the world. At last, I would like to say that a wise man knows how well to get benefit from everyone and everything. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day ahead.
It's a rare privilege for us to share a platform with the members of the Kalinga Nagar on the occasion of the Silver Jubilee commemorative ceremony. We wish to greet a hearty and delighted good morning to the principal of the home school, principal of other DAVs, venerated junior members, dignitaries, respected teachers, and all our fellow participants from middle school. This is Adar Shakatra, along with my co-mates Dharmeshwari and Stuti Mahavan. And we are going to enunciate our views on the topic impact of Ukraine's war over India's foreign relations. At first, what are our content? We are introducing the war. We are explaining about the background of the war, India's stand, and then impact on India's foreign policy on 3 main aspects. That is, India as a part of world, postmodernism views, and commonwealth. And at last, a conclusion.
War doesn't bring lasting peace. It brings the lasting take.
War does not determine who is right. War determines who is left.
War is a game of political rivalries where soldiers kill each other to let their commanders clear.
Now, let's talk about one of the background that is called this. Ukraine was a part of the Russian Empire and USSR for a very long period of time in its history. And according to the Foreign Council of Ministers, Ukraine was a part of Europe in the last century and it was known to be a very populous and powerful republic state with a high agricultural import. Previously, Russia was closely watched towards its west, and Ukrainians at that time experienced a lot of protest, governmental corruption during their independence. Now the main reason behind the war is Ukraine's ambition of joining the NATO, which is called North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is the military surveillance of 30 states of the world.
Russia wants the West to give Ukraine and other former Soviet nations out of NATO, but we want deployments near its territories and the roll out the forces from the Eastern Europe. But Ukraine wants to join NATO, which has not gone well in Russia. Russia thinks if Ukraine is allowed to join NATO, then the group will move closer to Russia's borders. Russia thinks if Ukraine joins NATO, then it will be eligible to get the group's support in case of the external alliance or external attacks. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia lost its control over 14 former republics, including Ukraine, and now it seems that Putin wants to restore the Moscow's influence on the entire post-Soviet states. Whatever it may be, now, in the present day, it seems that Russian President Putin wants guarantees from the West as well as Ukraine that Ukraine won't join NATO and that Ukraine should demilitarize and become a neutral state.
Now let us discuss about India's stand. Today, India has a great experience in shaping diplomacy during crisis, unlike in the past. For example, India was publicly supported
of the erstwhile Union Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979, while the disappearing England and the simultaneously shot regional strategies against the opposition. Now, UNSC, United Nations Security Council, took up this issue for voting on 30th January 2022, and India abstained from voting. India could have printed both the parties at the same time, thus it remained neutral. India has so far refrained from publicly criticizing Russia's action or condemning Ukraine-inspired growing pressure from US and its Christian allies, nor publicly stood for the support of Ukraine. Our position is not that it's not our problem. Our position is that we are for peace. With this phone call with jealousy, PM Modi noted that India has always stood for peaceful resolution and direct dialogue between both the parties.
Now, let's talk about what is India's perspective. India's perspective is Russia is one side, and to the west, that is the USA, and Europe is another side. India's relationship with the USA has a long term alliance. 86% of the Indian weapons come from Russia. Now, if we talk about USA, our relationship with the USA developed lately. Now, with Q4, that is the quadrilateral security dialogue, we are developing the new active strategy. Through the new active strategy, we can counter the expansion plans of China and other countries. The green situation of India is whatever we choose to lose. War is not a good news for the common people. There is no winner. Hence, we stand for peace and humanity.
Moving on next to the impacts on India's foreign policy. India's foreign policy is mainly based on three aspects. The first aspect is India as a part of third world. What's the third world? Third world is an outdated and derogatory phrase that has been used historically to describe a class of economically developed nations. Third world lost its political root and came to be known as economically poor and non-industrialized countries as well as newly industrialized countries. India is now considered as a third world country as well as a developing nation. India's relationship with all the countries is equally rich with love, peace, and harmony, and it's difficult to choose a particular side. Third world country can take part in global issues or choose the side of a particular developed nation, but cannot be directly involved in a war because of the underdeveloped conditions.
The second aspect is postmodern views on India's foreign relations. What is postmodernism? Postmodernism theory of international relations states that there is no objective reality in the world. Everything surrounding human beings is subjective reality. Now, being a developing country, India is not well equipped with technology or advanced warfare skills to directly involve or to support any of the parties during the war. In the other side, Indian diplomacy is very much admired for its multipolar focus. We place our neighborhood first, we think best, and we act best. India's diplomacy is thought to be a force for global good. India is an open society and a democracy, and these values remain in the heart of Indian diplomacy. And in such situations, involving in such kind of war is devastating for India, its future, as well as its foreign relations.
Now, let us discuss the third aspect, that is Commonwealth. What is Commonwealth? Commonwealth is the pre-existence of the sovereign states, comprising of the United Kingdom and its former dependencies, were chosen to maintain the ties of the friendship and political cooperation. India, as a Commonwealth nation, we can see the visible impact of the British language and culture in our day-to-day life, and we have developed a strong relationship with US in the last few decades. Our contribution in the path of the harmony and the peace for the world has been growing from the centuries.
And last but not least, war is a long narrative of triumphs and disasters, where the result is absolutely futile. Our country leaders choose faithful relationship, friendship, and our foreign relationship is based on the grounds of humanity for peace. Our foreign relationship started with crisis, and now our country leaders are choosing peace. We are choosing harmony, love, and faithful relationship. And last but not least,
Maybe America, maybe Russia, maybe Ukraine. Our country leaders will never allow any of them to outcast their powers or ever compromise with their malicious motives. With this, we would like to conclude our presentation here. Thank you and have a great day. The 20th century faced many challenges to global peace, security, and world order. The 21st century faced even bigger challenges with the revival of the Cold War era and with the evolution of a modern system of multipolar world order. Today, we are at the threshold of a challenge that threatens the existence, future, and security of the entire human race. Very pleasant morning to all of you. This is Rija Dash, and these are my teammates Shiresh Mishra and Hariom Pati. And we feel extremely honored to have been given the opportunity to present our views on the topic, impact of Russia-Ukraine war on India's foreign relations. The strikingly adroit Chinese philosopher Sun Tzu, in his book The Art of War, had penned, and I quote, "The supreme art of war stands upright on the gravestone of violent diplomacy." And needless to say, the most illustrious example of how terrifying the amalgamated impact of strategic progress over peace and deliberation replaced with undue action was seen in the war between the countries of Russia and Ukraine in the year 2022. Amidst post and mid-war ramifications of rising inflation rates, death rates, surging collateral damage, and security concerns piling up, it was almost imperative to the United Nations Security Council to determine and stabilize overall geopolitical stance over it. And when it did so, amongst the 34 countries that abstained from voting was ours, India. Though in the name of neutrality and balanced values, India's abstention triggered almost instant international reaction from many a country. The first of them being the United Kingdom, which almost unrealistically expected the single largest democracy in the world to vote against Russia in the first state-on-state European conflict since the Second World War. India's abstention caused an international stir and an undeniable trust deficit in UK-India relations. Now, India maintained its neutrality due to currency exchange issues, security concerns, and arms exchange fraud, but the UK kept on urging it comprehensively to mount diplomatic and economic pressure on Russia, influenced by the prospects of signing a free trade agreement. In the absence of left diplomacy, this trust deficit escalated into dealing UP's military assertion against China and Pakistan in the Indo-Pacific region and tarnished bilateral defense cooperation between the United Kingdom and India in Syria. Now, along the same lines, if we say that the Russo-Ukraine war did not impact India's relations with the world's biggest superpower, it would be quite the understatement.
The backdrop of increasing tensions with Russia, the West is keen to stop Russia from taking control over Ukraine. In the 2+2 dialogue between the Indian Foreign Minister and Defense Minister, Mr. Jaishankar and Mr. Rajnath Singh, it was evident that both the parties were showing willingness to understand each other's position on Ukraine. While PM Modi and his ministers reaffirmed the stated policy of non-alignment, there was a marked shift in some of the earlier stronger statements made by the officials in Washington. The US wants to be a partner of choice with India in virtually across every realm, which includes commerce, technology, security, and education. However, the shift in US focus from the Indo-Pacific region to Europe is perilous for India, who is focusing on China. Because both China and Russia have resorted to resist forces through external aggression in the common adjacent regions, which are Taiwan and Ukraine. Moreover, China might have nodded at the Russian invasion if not encouraging it, and also Moscow's economic dependency on China undermines the multipolarity which India seeks. So, what is the popular animation? It is that China can draw lessons from the Russia-Ukraine war to declare Pakistan-occupied Kashmir as an independent state at an opportune time in the future, which will be a great threat to India.
who needs to introspect its strategy and needs. Our discourse over the topic might seem to be just if not enough, but is it really? Or how can a topic ever be ventilated over without validating the powers in conflict? We often see conflicts which are generally two-sided. One has to choose either of the two. But what we often fail to recognize is the existence of the third party. The party that stands at a position not in against or favor of any of the parties in conflict, rather against the conflict itself. India has maintained stand following deep-rooted principles even during the Russia-Ukraine crisis. India's suspension from voting, taking the neutral decision, have shown its intentions of maintaining peace. India has not completely withdrawn from the crisis. It had tried in several instances. To build up communications and dialogues between the parties in conflict. India had constantly supplied grains, medicines, and necessary amenities to the war-facing Ukraine. On the other hand, India has shown the world that all its hands are favored, not towards any of the parties in conflict, but in favor of its own citizens. It is quite evident from the actions taken by the government in order to pause the war to evacuate Indian citizens and students from Ukraine for the path of the Europe. India is purchasing cheap oil from Russia, and Russia is providing the same without any hesitation. India is also thinking of setting up a rupee-ruble currency exchange program in order to facilitate Russia to provide its cheap oil and other imports without the use of US dollar. India has recently purchased almost 40 million barrels of crude oil and other oil imports together as today's report.
Hence, we can arrive at the conclusion that the entire world community has surrendered to the imperialistic quest of the communist countries. The political and commercial interests of the United States and the neighbor countries can be clearly visible in their involvement in the Vietnamese War, the Gulf Wars, and in the turmoils in the Middle East, the Afghanistan crisis to the current issue. Now, what will we be doing? The entire process relies on our country. And now, if our country can take a neutral stand and stand by it to fulfill its own interests for all reasons whatsoever, then our efforts are definitely commendable and laudable. Thank you.
Is the part of action people who don't know each other, still for the glory of people who know each other quite well, but won't see each other. A blissful morning to one of us in the house here. Today, our podcast to the activities our technical brains to plan to present on the topic impact of Ukraine war on India's foreign relations. That is what the first one, 1939, the second one. Now, after 83 years, 2020, is this going to be the war we witness the Third World War? The same question has been brought in the minds of them. Until 1990, USSR was the biggest union of social conflicts, not just in Asia, but also in the whole world. And the only one who had the power to face the so-called US. But in 1991, USSR got divided into 15 different countries. Ukraine and Russia are the products of this division. Now the main question arises, why was Russia, against Ukraine joining NATO, the biggest military alliance between European countries and the US? The reason is simple. Russia could not afford to make another one of its neighboring countries join NATO, making it further vulnerable to the attack of its sole rival US. In addition to this, Russia had also made a few demands to NATO. It had demanded and written that Ukraine would become a member of NATO and had also demanded the military activities carried out by NATO be stopped in the Eastern European region. But the US denied all of these demands, putting Ukraine at risk. There is no glory in battle worth the blood it costs. War of any kind can't be justified, but in my perspective, if a country has the power
a war, but it refrains from using that power, then that country is as much guilty as the country initiating the war. Russia has been a long-standing Prime Minister partner of India, be it giving assistance to India during its war with China and Pakistan, or be it India's dependency on oil and military equipment. Russia has been there for us. At this juncture, it's hard to decide who is right, who is wrong, but we all can agree that Russia has initiated a war. And the tragedy of war is that it uses a man's best to do a man's. India did not align itself to Ukraine or Russia. And although it was criticized at first by the media, by various countries for doing so, but India's neutral stance on this issue turned out to be the pillar behind success of Operation Gaza, the evacuation program carried out by the government of India to evacuate Indian citizens from Ukraine against the war. Prior to India's independence and India becoming a republic, Nehru contemplated the path that our nation could take in only affairs. He had said, we propose to stay away from the power politics of groups aligned against one another. And this, the vain worship, formed the basis of non-aligned movement. And we, the Indians, as the pioneer of NAM, would like to continue following this path that our ancestors had laid out for us long ago. For the continuation of the rest of the presentation, I would like to read today's day.
Thank you, Adya. No one can sleep peacefully when there is a conflict in neighbors' house. The point of saying this is that the world is so interlinked today that any problem at any place is going to hamper the entire world some way or other. Now, India, compelled by its circumstances, policies, and prudent outcomes, has remained silent over the issue. But it broke its silence when its permanent UN representative, T.S. Tirumurti, condemned the Bucha killings, demanding for an independent investigation of the matter in UNS meeting early in this month. Yet, this is to be noted that, having expressed its concern over the war operations, India had abstained from voting on Russia's suspension from UNHRC. We have to understand that this is a part of India's geopolitical strategy. One side, it remained aloof from choosing any side in the war, but it raised its voice only when human ethics and rights were violated. Russia proves to be a time-tested friend of India, but India's relations with the West have strengthened recently through the US and the European Union. The US provides India a huge market since 16% of India's exports are sent to the US. Hence, India cannot afford to reverse its progressions for having a peaceful relation with the West. But this still puts India in a dilemma, for its neutrality in this matter is also not well accepted by the West. Finally, India's foreign relations will certainly undergo changes, but not for the worse. With inavailability of supplies for import from Russia and Ukraine, India has to strengthen its relations with alternatives like France, Argentina, Israel, US, etc. The annual import of India was more than 500 billion USD, which is far more than the export for 300 billion USD. This indicates how India, a rare earth with resources galore, is highly dependent on others. Hence, it's high time India needs to be self-reliant and promote the Atmanirbhar Bharat movement. Practically, India seems to be a very safer side amidst this conflict. The US had to waive its sanctions on India when it purchased S-400 missiles from Russia. This proves of what strategic importance India is to the West. Hence, any country wishing to have its hegemony over the Southeast Asia and the Indo-Pacific region has to have good relations with India. And to conclude,
The bipolar wall will insist India to align, but India has to strongly stick to its policies, maintain peaceful relations with all, and avoid indulgence in all. That's all from our end. Thank you and have a nice day.
As I have already said in the beginning that we believe in the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So let me read out the names of the schools that have participated in today's program. And they are BHUBANESWAR Public School, Chandrasekharpur, BJU School, Nagar, Bhubaneswar, BHUBANESWar Public School, Unit 8, Bhubaneswar, BHUBANESWar Public School, Pokharipur, Bhubaneswar, Sai International School, BDSR, BHUBANESWar Public School, PPL, Paradev, Saint Xavier High School, Khandagiri, Old Town, Bhubaneswar, BJEM 2, Satyabhama Board, BDSR, International School, BPSR, DV Public School, IFCO, Paradev, DV Public School, CDA, Cuttack, DV Public School, Kalinga Nagar, Bhubaneswar, and LR DV Public School, Cuttack, DV Public School, Paradev. These are the 14 schools that have participated in today's seminar program competition. Your efforts can be seen in your presentation. But now it's time to listen to our experts. Yes, it's time to listen to our judges. Now may I request Professor Brahmananda Satpathy sir to speak few words and encourage the young minds. So please.
Esteemed principal, government colleagues, my fellow government jury, my own dear students who are here. So I do not know whether I have become a grand teacher. And here I have young participants. I know not whether this was an opportunity given to me to hear you and to educate you. This is not for the first time that I am coming here. I used to come to give you some of you might be there. It is very thoughtful. I do not know what I will use to describe your information knowledge, critical analysis that you have shown here. At this stage, choosing words by expressing your thought. I don't know. It's a map that is made that you have acquired. And if you maintain it, you huge here. But you maintain it, must maintain. You have got an act to prepare on this topic, and you have prepared it very well. The differences in the marks are very little, not too much, right? You all are the winners. Nobody is a loser. One who wins today does not have a guarantee that he or she will win tomorrow. I still remember when you win a debate, I think you have won worldwide. And enough, and there is no pressure beyond this. I'm very happy that this college or the brand name of this college has maintained its quality and purity in academics. You do not know me, I am Sarpati, I am from Uttar University, serving more than 20 years as a professor and ultimately retiring as the chairman of the council. I was in this for 7, 8 years. I was director of students over there, organizing debates, chancellor of this cup, that cup, in the auditorium. And I have a liking for it. Madam has said, sir, can you speak a few words on this? I don't know how, what it's got, but on some of the aspects, I have to say. Some of the difficulties that we have, because even a renowned professor can do that. The way that we have to do all these professors here, I hardly think anything is like that. Only the critical part is missing. Because the war is a European war. Remember this. Reformation movement in Europe, 150 years of war, took away 1/3 of human lives in Central Europe. 150 years war, 17th century already. They are not honored to words. They are not known to words. Okay, because I will say so many things there, but let me be very clear. You must be specific. Impact on India's foreign relations. You cannot conceive foreign relations without its instrument. Its instrument is India's foreign policy. You materialize everything through while dealing with other nations through your foreign policy. And this, when you talk India's foreign relations, automatically involves India's foreign policy. I should say two things. One, British India foreign policy. India's India, when we are independence, we have a foreign policy. And British India, because the Britishers were not dictators, they were having some democracy. And they have introduced to democracy, they will be a rule or some features of democracy in India, 1935 Act. You cannot do away with the 1935 Act, what we see today, whatever we will criticize. But it is the UK which has a transparent democracy in India. We cannot negate this. Second thing I am saying, why non-alignment? Non-alignment was not essentially a father's policy. We had non-alignment, all this that we talk about, consider to deal with the world, more particularly with China, India, China, high. That was important. Then it became India, China, South. But because originally India, China, high. For your introduction, let me tell you that the question in UPSC in board paper that it is a strategy, non-alignment policy strategy to maximize material gains from both the blocks. So you look at this, this one you can check it. So it's a strategy. What is that strategy? That to maximize the material gains from both the blocks. From both the blocks. So non-alignment appears to be bias, but its content is material. Content is material. We attain political independence without having economic independence. Political independence is meaningless without economic independence. So we were decolonization process started not because you demanded political independence. That made a factor. But they said it is a white man's border. We cannot govern this police. Now it is a border. Whatever they wanted to exploit, they exploited. Nothing was left out. when the question came for a national reconstruction, domestic reconstruction, they said, no, 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 it is white man's burden. No, no more we can govern it. So not that maybe a factor of resurgence of national awakening in accuracy and all that. But the essence is that is nothing to extract from these topics. We have extracted enough. They will deliver. What is that to us? As somebody referred Commonwealth. We were reluctant to join Commonwealth. Who were the members of the Commonwealth? Those who are the colonies. So there was a saying that by joining Commonwealth, we are going to surrender our sovereignty, the body ground. Therefore, we will not join Commonwealth. If you look at this program, and this program clearly look at it, nowhere United States were with us. Nowhere. They were already having relations with Pakistan. Pakistan was closer to America. India was not closer to America. And this Soviet Union was a sympathizer of the Taliban. He said, the Soviet Union said, I'm not a colonial power. If you are now decolonized, it is the moral responsibility of the colonial powers to ensure that you develop. It is not our moral right, because we have never colonized you. So the colonial powers should come forward and help you in the reconstruction process. Why do you, even some of the Western countries say, what is non-alignment? John Foster Dulles says, it is an immoral doctrine. It is an immoral doctrine. Now, the European foreign policy depended more on principles, less on interests. More on principles, which are immutable, but less on interests. And we have seen that entire Cold War period and in the Cold War also. And the end of the Cold War led to the multipolar world that most of people have said. We are no more confined to non-alignment. We are more than a non-alignment. What more than non-alignment? We are our policy is multi-alignments. Not non-alignments so much. Including non-alignment, we are straightforward talking about multi-alignments. Because in a globalized world, interconnected, interdependent world, this matters. We can diversify our interests. For example, Imran Khan said, Bhutan was president in India. What Imran Khan said? India at the same time can have our own and can have good relations with the United States, independent foreign policy. It's simple joke because you are not one big into the buy England at the state for its own interest, not for our interest. And if you look at it clearly, some countries do it in India. You see, whatever we say, this is the world is divided into two. One is democracies, other is autocracies. What India hears, what are the comforts? India hears the Russia-China axis. We hear Russia-China axis. You might have observed, few days before, Putin visited China. And some aspirants, they were having with the president of China, and came there after 2 days he has started to work. Getting aspirants from China, that we are with you and you go ahead and got a green signal from China after 2 days. So China is a sleeping giant, does the things, wait for the things, does not come out to operate. Because they believe in commerce more in the ground capture than other countries. If you put it in order, the same Jawahar you were asked, each non-alignment in neutrality
They will say, non-alignment is not neutral. Then what it is? Where justice is creating and freedom is menaced. We cannot and shall continue to be trapped. So neutrality does not mean against the seeker. I am not against the seeker. There are some who say equidistant. What do you mean by equidistant? You support or do not support on the state of the basis of the issues at hand. Now even the one may go a step ahead. As there is constant threat by putting that we won't hesitate to have nuclear deterrence, and on the other hand, NATO sticks that we will continue to supply arms to Ukraine. This is and Mother Russia concept that Putin has in mind. Mother for he was holding a very good position in KGB. He was in Germany when this recession took place in Russia, in Soviet Union. When he was disintegrated, this Putin was in Germany and he could not tolerate it. And he was having in mind that time will come that will revive the concept of Mother Russia. When all this, why did you prevent against the 15 unions got disintegrated? What happened? 15 republics got disintegrated, and all of you know Venezuela and Gaza. And they failed to prevent the process of disintegration. And when you talk about democracy, democracy must have free choice and free opportunities. A democracy which does not exercise this free choice. What happened? Now Russia is telling that my missiles are so powerful that we can destroy the whole world. If it is so, what are the fear? What are the fear? If you can get closer to NATO, you are much more powerful and saying that I have the ability to destroy the rest of the world. You are so powerful. Why you are afraid? That is a limit. This human tragedy that is occurring. Do you think that the buildings are having lives? The buildings do not have any life. Lives, they are not lives. Living and 140 countries supported this revolution. 140 countries in the United Nations supported this revolution. We have our compulsions. Compulsions, as you have already nicely explained, what are the compulsions? They will tell you. Russia has supplied the oil pipelines to China, not to India. Now the time has come, okay, when their customers are becoming less and less, they are getting opportunities, new customers to take oil from us. You must do analytically. We should not be shocked. Analytically, we should be strong. Let me pose a very hypothetical question to you. If China did the same thing on India, as Russia has done on Ukraine, what will you do? What will we do? Who will help us? That's what Hillary Clinton has given a hint. And the US Assistant Secretary has openly said, if China attacks India, like Russia attacked Ukraine, and they did major development, what will happen? Who will come to the rescue? Nobody will go to this. So there are very hypothetical questions. But the question now is, take for example, I will remain absent in the United Nations. Okay. The violators of the human rights is a permanent member of the Security Council. The violators of human rights are the permanent member of the Security Council. If we apply the vetoes, why that veto is taken into consideration? Because he is a party to the war. But nothing happened. And there is a talk that we want to remove Russia from Security. Even there was a problem, why Russian Federation will be given a veto power? It is no more Soviet Union. It is no more Soviet Union. Why Russian Federation will be given a right to vote? There is a lot of questions. The UN is powerful against weak countries. UN is helpless against the strong countries. And there are plenty of examples that we see today. Politically speaking, we have a very content. All that we have done, that are also this and one people believe that we can bring about number one prime minister in the world can bring those three warring factions into a negotiating table, but that did not happen. That did not happen. India can use its goodwill. We are having a good break, putting in a good break. But do you think that as something happened? Nothing has happened. Even when Secretary General Guterres was present in Kiev, the Israel attack on Kiev, that itself speaks. And also I openly say, if situation once I would hesitate to use nuclear weapons. And look, that attack are not only going to happen, which is nuclear weapons. And there is a great idea. Remember, we have to reassess. And this coming new world will be a new power structure. We have to reassess our current strategy, economic strategy, all the strategies we have to rethink and reassess. Ukraine will never continue to be as independent and sovereign state as it existed earlier. It will be divided Ukraine. It will be divided Ukraine. And the problem will continue there. Who is the same Americans we have seen, the same Russians, the same Chinese we have seen. And we are relentlessly pursuing. Why do we, 11% of the total arms imports in the world, India is the largest country, importing 11% of the total arms import in the world. We are paying so much. I am not, opening up the Pandora box of computer past. Our relation with the Soviet Union, the war between which was the decommission in Soviet Union in 1995, the same sovereign was also to India. Do you know this? The same sovereign was sold to India to the high price. Everybody is interested. Arms trade has become so huge that every country of the West and East, they want to sell with. And we were like the whole of the world. And the budget, the share of their budget, you look at it. More than 20-30% comes from selling arms to the world. And other countries are fighting and using those. We need keeping in a view to hostile China and keeping in a view to hostile Pakistan. Do you know why Iran visited during that critical time to USSR? The reason is he was sorry. Not against India that he is weak, because USSR, the Soviet Union, Russia knows what is India. This is an opportunity moment that he was sorry. India is moving so. Poland and Bulgaria, how much money they have paid to Russia by selling another? Now, after stroke, Russia said, I got up supply of oil to Poland and Bulgaria. Do you think that this will remain as it is? Like Saddam Hussein, who was in the Greek of debate, said that you come to me, I will give oil freely. You support me. I will bring oil free. That is what I was. So nothing is conflict. When they can sell it at a higher price, why they will incur loss by giving you at a lower price? Your own products are not giving you oil at a lower price. Some have. Oil producing countries, non-oil producing countries. Oil producing countries are ready to plan to sell their products at a lower price. That is when this scenario okay. Therefore, I should have spoken a lot on this because I was figuring and thinking to explain what is the neutrality. Therefore, non-alignment is older is over, non-alignment is mostly over, and we have a multi-alignment system. We have diversified our interests. We can purchase the best we comes from Israel. We can purchase the best we comes from the United States. We can purchase the best we comes from France. It is 400. American said, no, we will not put any obstacles on this. You put or do not put. We also purchase things from him. We also purchase things from France. It is a free choice from where we purchase. So we have diversified. So we must principle and self-interest. Principle and self-interest must be reconciled. We cannot go around with principles because we are not a self-sufficient country. We are a poor country, dependent upon being. So many other military is highly not having weapons in the we purchase everything. Earlier, everything from more or less from Soviet Union. Now we have diversified it, purchasing the other countries. That we have still it has come. My dear friends, I intend to conclude by saying that your analysis, your presentation, your preparation was fantastic and outstanding. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure your works will definitely enhance the knowledge of our participants. Now, may I request Professor Now may I request Dr. Rajan Kumar Panda to come to the dais and speak few words to motivate all the participants. So, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. At 9:30 we entered the building. Now it is 12:45. For 3 hours and 15 minutes, perhaps we are having a very hectic, such a serious issue. Such type of brilliant presentation, your excellent preparation for that, your dedication for that, with the energy that you have shown, all these things are really very great. Sir has given the political aspect of that. Those are not my direct teacher. So at that time I was a student of India. Sir was the professor in political science department. Today I have got the opportunity to sit in a political class. And thank you, sir, for that. And the loving students, the cheerful faces, and our respected principal, sir, and such cordial staff members, the faculty members, really it is an excellent one. So, sir has given the political side of that, and as the man of English literature, let me interpret it in the technical side of the seminar presentation. So, whatever praise that I had to give, I had already praised. Now I will only give criticism. How it could have been better. Excellent one, no doubt. Excellent one, no doubt. All praises done, but still done. Something more. Recently, KGF, it has taken the world at storm. Everyone knows that. But what Rocky says by seeing the pieces of iron, pieces of gold. Does anyone remember that? What is that? सिर्फ इतना और थोड़ा टाइम लगाओ. Yes or no? That is the response. Only from that point of view, I am giving some points by which your presentation can be still better. Coming to the topic, please analyze the topic properly. In many of the presentations, the topic has not been analyzed properly. I am really thankful to the management of BHU Public School Kalinga Nagar. This such a wonderful topic has been given. It is not a straightforward topic. It is not a straightforward topic. It has been completely compartmentalized. It has been completely correlated. Everyone is speaking about foreign trade. Ukraine war, that is one part. We are not bothered about that. Our presentation is not about that one. Impact on foreign relations. It is not on foreign trade. It is not on foreign policy. It is about foreign relations. The ground where we are standing now, the room we are sitting now, it is a DAV. DAV is known for patriotism. DAV is not known for some monetary things. So here we are talking about relations, not about commerce, not about economy, not about the trade laws, not about the oil laws. Then Sir has pointed out, Ramanand Sir has pointed out that about Security Council. So the foreign relation, India's foreign relations in terms of the Security Council, those members who are getting the power of veto. So what is their relationship? What is the new trend that is going to be? That should be our matter of presentation. About United States, about UK, about Germany, about France. What is their stance? Okay. So much big things, very huge things have been discussed. And as a writer, as already in my introduction it has been told. So 14 of my books have been already published, and maybe in manuscript format, more than 20 books are ready. And if whatever presentation you people have made today, if it will be assembled together, it is going to be one of the best books on this new trend. I sincerely request Principal Sir, it is a grand occasion for this school, Silver Jubilee. It is a grand occasion. The people who are the students who are present in this bench, they are the lucky benches. And if the students of this proud school is present here, you can take the lead of publishing a book on this topic. So much of work we have done that I am interested in. And coming to some other technical aspect, the first thing what I suggested is try to understand the topic properly. It is not why Ukraine war is into this Russia and Ukraine war, why it started. Topic is not that. Topic is not what was the previous foreign policy of India. Topic is not that what will be the consequences of this war. It is about foreign relations. Definitely, principals are given a lot of thought of selecting such a beautiful topic. A very huge one, the field is very huge, but the goalpost is very narrow. The talent of the student can be known only if he can score within that stipulated area. Striking the ball everywhere, it will hardly matter. And another thing, my dear students, can I address you as my student, though you are never my direct students? So your smiling faces tempts me to address you as my loving students. And my suggestion is that you have given a lot of information overload. Lot of information overload. For the last 10 days, perhaps you would not have slept. Perhaps for the last 10 days, you may not have slept. So much of work you have done. But the point is that we have only 7 minutes. Then when ma'am asked me, sir, they are not stopping after giving the bell, so they are not concluding their speech. So what should I do? Should I give one bell at 8 minutes, another bell at 9 minutes? And during my what I expressed, ma'am, I told only give 15 seconds. 7, one bell, after 15 minutes, 15 seconds, another, after that 7:30, close that closing bell. Why it is so? Why it is so? Then what what is the meaning of keeping a time limit then? You are having word limit. You are having word limit in your answer set. What is the instruction given by your teacher? Plus or minus 5 words. More than that, it may get negative marks. Okay? So to make this situation a bit lighter, I was thinking about a joke sitting over there. You must have given the exam, science exam. One statement will be given, and you have to show the scientific reason of that. Yes or no? So one of the question was, when we immerse a stick in water, why does it appear wet? One student becomes very angry by seeing that. He is a student of standard 8 and he thought that it is a standard test. So he became angry. And he was interested that he should quit the exam instead of writing the example. Then he asked the invigilator, sir, who has thought this question? Then he told that I have prepared the question. Then he told the oh, sir, you have done it. All right, sir, I am writing. Then he started writing. Water has tremendous force. What he has written? Water has tremendous force. When a pot comes, it takes away the building, cattle, and anything that comes in front of it. It is the good luck of the stick that only it appears bent, not broken. Only to make the moment lighter, I am saying this. The second question, that when the fruit falls, why does it fall to the ground? He became extremely angry. Such standard is asked to us. I am reading in standard 8, so we don't have any self-respect. Then he consoled himself that it is an exam he has to write, then he started writing. The upper part of the tree is covered with branches, leaves, fruit, flowers, and the fruit cannot pierce that and go up, so it comes down. And the third question is really the height. At the time of the thunder, why do we see the light first and we hear the sound later? He became extremely angry. He was thinking that he should leave the exam, and then he stood up and he told sir, keep this paper, I am not interested. That's after that, if you don't know the answer, write anything that you think. I will give you the mark, don't bother about that. I will take the paper, I will give you the mark, don't bother. Then he wrote. At the time of thunder, we first see the light, then hear the sound, because our eyes are situated in front of our face. Can anyone tell that it is a wrong response? Never it is a wrong response. Scientifically something different, but logic is 100% correct. So to make the moment lighter, so much of information overload, what I was saying, some of the time, your presentation was so heavy that you may not be enjoying that. The audience may not be enjoying that. You may have done a lot of labor, but the clarity of expression will not be there. And another thing, the number 7 minutes, that is important. How many words we can speak in a minute, which can be understood by the other person? 150 words. Roughly around 150 to 200 words. So our entire presentation should be within the range of 1000 to 1200 words, because there is another PowerPoint presentation, those slides are there. And for some of the cases, the slides were considered a slide to be an aid, not to be a hindrance. You are so much dependent on the slides that habit is to be changed. And next one that I want to suggest, you need a lot of practice. So how you are standing, how you are presenting, who tells after whom, all these things carry the mark. And if I will go on speaking like this, so many will be there, but I appreciate your effort. I am really thankful to the management. And if you will be getting any opportunity, so many great schools are there, you are representing great schools. And if in the future, if some point of time we are going to meet, then we can discuss about all the technical aspects. And coming to my view of this, only within 2 minutes I am going to summarize. And till now, you may have understood that I am a typical teacher. You must have understood that I am a typical teacher. And teacher of what? English. So very directly. So the directly question, first directly question comes. You are asked to describe India's foreign policy, the impact in connection with the Ukraine war, the impact on foreign policy of India in one word. That one word is going to be what? The nucleus of your speech. Can anyone tell it? Yes, please.
Sir, tactful. Tactful.
Tactful. No, the policy, name of the policy. In one word, please.
Sir, independent.
No. Yes.
Observer.
No. No. Impact the present situation. I am not asking about the past one. One word. Yes, please. It is policy is always told in terms of teaching. Policy is always told in terms of teaching. Please. No. Okay, without wasting any time, let me come to the point. Exceptionalism. Exceptionalism. That is the policy. Now that nucleus has been done. All of you are reading science, you can understand what is the nucleus. Okay. Then in 2 words, if only 2 words are given, then what can be the foreign policy? What is that? Exceptional neutrality. In 8 words, creative and constructive role in not joining either side. Constructive and creative role in not joining either side. Okay. This is the. And some of you are told that India is in a dilemma, in a diplomatic dilemma. Not at all. Come to the Korean War. Take the example of Korean War from 1950 to 1953. North Korea was supported by China and Russia. South Korea was supported by United States of America. India was neutral at that time also. Coming to the 1956 war. Who attacked whom now? Soviet Union attacked Hungary. Coming to the 2001 war. Who attacked whom? Who attacked whom? USA attacked whom? Afghanistan. 2003. USA attacked Iran. 2014. Russia annexed, not attacked, annexed Crimea. In all these situations, India's stand was neutral. It is not neutral, it is exceptionalism. Alright. Then coming to the US, how much the only 3 parts the impact should be. One is relations with United States of America. Next one, relationship with England and relationship with European Union. Okay. All of you know about that. If the speeches or the presentations would have been divided into this, the free flow would be there. Within 7 minutes, you could have given a lot of clarity, but still then it was the best one. It is a good money that you have shared together and hoping to meet you soon in the near future. Thank you all.
So, for encouraging our young minds. men born to win, but to be a winner, you must plan, prepare, and accept to win. The most awaited moment has arrived. Yes, it is time to declare the results of today's seminar presentation. Now, may I have the honor to request our judges to please come up on the stage to declare the results. And I request our esteemed principal sir to declare the result and bless the winners. So please.
Before going to the results, by the esteemed judges, let me appreciate the expressions of the judges. Both are really experts in their field, but Sarah told about the multi-alignment is really the trend now. You can find Sarah technically pointed out it is where the relation effect of the Indian war on the foreign relations. India, what way is likely to move? India is not fixed what it was there earlier. In that situation, what will the changes in the foreign policy? So Sarah described rightly the multi-alignment is no more the non-alignment. And Rajiv are also really good technical points really was analyzing. I really appreciate it was very useful for all of us, all of you also. He was not only at the time also he was analyzing what you have been made. So anyway, thanks to very much. You have done a lot of acting for the preparing and critical thinking and presenting. But let's always hope to move high. In these results, we are having total 5 have been selected. In the 3 categories, first, second, and third. Judges are appreciated that all have done very good. So we are having 2 first positions. First one in alphabetical order, area wise, and Kalinga Nagar Public School, Cuttack. Please come on.
Ma'am, please. Ma'am, you have to come to stage.
Congratulations. Yes. The joint pass, second, the pass position goes through joint pass. He was to Kalinga Nagar. Congratulations. The second position goes to St. Xavier High School, Kedarnavi, Old Town. Is also joined by he international school book very school. Ye teacher is expecting the please. Yes. And also, third question goes to the joint card, DV Public School in KUS. Congratulations, humility.
Thank you, everyone. I would like to request all the dignitaries to stay on the stage. And it is for the information to all the winners that prizes will be given away on the valedictory ceremony. Very rightly it is said, celebrate your life with love and gratitude. Yes, it is time to felicitate our esteemed judges of today's occasion. I request our honorable principal sir and all the supervisors, academical supervisors to do the honor. So please. It's really a moment of jubilation for all of us. Please put your hands together for our esteemed judges of today's occasion. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. The roots of all goodness lie in the soil of appreciation. So may I request Mr. Shantivada Baran, Academic Supervisor, 6th and Chairman of the Seminar Committee, to be here to propose a vote of thanks. But before I take your leave, I pray to the Almighty to bless all of us with His divine blessings that makes every day a joy to live. Thank you. And please.
Good afternoon, everyone. We say there is no end. The second time of starting, so we think that this will start a new way for thinking about these wars which are not to be there in this world because we are humans. We are not for the wars. So good afternoon again, everybody. Esteemed principal sir, honorable judges, respected escort teachers, colleagues, and my dear participants. At the end of a flamboyant session of splendid presentation by promising seminarists, I found short of words as how to express my gratitude and thankfulness to the august gathering, who have made this day so enriching, so informative, and enlightening to us. When we chose this topic, obviously I would like to hear as esteemed judge Dr. Ajit Panda told that yes, sir has selected this topic, and yes, it was sir who deliberated with us that what type of topic we can make so that our students will be able to present their own views about this. Not about the economic agenda, but about relations. So, sir, you are very true that sir only has made this topic possible for us with a lot of deliberations like this. I express my profound gratitude and thankfulness to the honorable judges on this occasion, Professor Raman Sarvati and Dr. Ajit Panda, Associate Professor of English, for spending their valuable time in evaluating the participants and their useful feedback to the young learners. Sir, for 3 hours continuously judging is not easy, we know that. And you did thank you. We go for this, sir. I express my sincere thanks and gratitude to the head of the participating schools for their commendable help and support in sending their students to this event. I convey my thanks and gratefulness to my esteemed principal sir for his constant support and encouragement in arranging this program on our campus. We are profusely indebted to all the members of Seminar Committee and the Steering Committee of Silver Jubilee celebrations for their wholehearted cooperation in making this grand event come true. We are equally thankful to all the escort teachers and guide teachers who have backed their students with all the necessary help and have prepared them well to be the best of their virtual students. Last but not the least, I thank all our dearly loved participants for their spirit of participation, inquiry, and their informative deliberations that have made this event a successful one. Once again, I thank one and all present behind the success of this program, and a special applause to all the participants, student participants who have come here with all this preparation. Thank you all.